The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. Inside its crystal halls, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered for an emergency meeting. The air buzzed with tension as alien voices spoke in dozens of languages. Counselor Velthar stepped forward on his powerful reptilian legs. His yellow eyes swept across the crowd as he activated the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, showing a blue and green world that looked peaceful and quiet. "Fellow council members," Velthar's voice boomed through the chamber, "we face a threat unlike any we have seen before. The humans of Earth have been watching us. They have been stealing our technology. They learn our secrets and grow stronger every day." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The crystalline beings from the Nexus worlds chimed like broken glass. The tall, thin ethereals whispered among themselves with voices like wind through leaves. Zindar of the Ethereal Collective floated upward, his pale form glowing with inner light. "These humans are nothing but primitive animals," he said with disgust. "They fight among themselves constantly. They poison their own world. They are a disease that will spread if we do not stop them now." In the back of the chamber, a young human woman named Kira sat in the small section reserved for Earth's embassy. Her heart pounded as she listened to the accusations. She was Earth's only representative here, and she felt very small among all these powerful alien beings. The evidence against humanity looked terrible. Velthar showed intercepted radio signals that proved humans had been listening to alien communications for decades. He displayed human technology that seemed too advanced for their supposed level of development. Worst of all, he showed military movements on Earth that suggested the humans were preparing for war. "They build weapons while pretending to seek peace," Velthar continued. "They send messages about friendship while their armies grow stronger. We cannot trust them. We must act before they become too dangerous to stop." One by one, the alien species cast their votes. The war-loving Corvani voted for invasion immediately. The peaceful Zenith Collective voted yes after long discussion, saying it was necessary to protect other worlds. Even the usually neutral trading guilds voted to support military action. Kira stood up, her voice shaking. "Please, honored council members, humanity seeks only to learn and grow. We have never attacked any of your worlds. We have always tried to follow the rules of galactic law." Velthar turned his cold gaze toward her. "Your species has broken the most sacred rule of all. You have developed advanced technology without declaring it to the council. You have hidden your true capabilities while pretending to be primitive. This deception alone demands punishment." The vote continued around the chamber. Each yes felt like a hammer blow to Kira's chest. The Saurian Empire voted yes. The Machine Collective voted yes. The Hive Worlds voted yes as one voice, only one being spoke against the invasion. Keeper Morden of the Archive species had remained silent through most of the debate. The ancient creature looked like a walking tree made of silver metal. When he finally spoke, his voice was like distant thunder. "I have lived for 10,000 years, Mordun said slowly. "I have seen many species rise and fall. I have watched wars that burned entire star systems. But I tell you this, some doors once opened can never be closed again. Think carefully about what you are choosing today." Zindar laughed, a sound like breaking bells. "Old Keeper, your fears make you weak. These humans are nothing compared to the great wars of the past. They have no magic like the ethereals. They have no hive mind like the swarm. They have no technology like the machines. They are just animals with crude tools." The final vote was announced. 847 species voted for immediate invasion. Only 3 voted against it. Keeper Mordun abstained, choosing neither side. Admiral Theclon of the Combined Fleet received his orders directly from the Council. The massive warrior belonged to a species that looked like walking mountains of rock and metal. His orders were simple: travel to the Sol system and force humanity to surrender. If they refused, he was to conquer their world and remove them as a threat to galactic peace. As the council session ended, Kira felt panic rising in her chest. She had to warn Earth, but all official communication channels would be monitored now. She hurried back to her small ship, trying to look calm while her mind raced. In the docking, She saw the beginnings of the invasion fleet gathering. Ships from dozens of worlds were arriving every hour. Some were massive warships covered in weapons. Others were troop transports that could carry millions of soldiers. The fleet would be the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Kira reached her tiny embassy ship and sealed the airlock behind her. Her hands shook as she activated a hidden communication device. It was not part of the official embassy equipment. She had built it herself from parts that should not have worked together. The message she sent was brief. They're coming. All of them. 800 species. Vote passed. Fleet assembling now. You have maybe 2 days. She sent the message on a frequency that officially did not exist. According to galactic science, the wavelength she used could not carry information across space, but Kira had learned things about physics that the aliens did not know. On Earth, in a small coffee shop in Seoul, a man named Hyun-woo looked up from cleaning his coffee machine. His tablet buzzed with an incoming message. To anyone watching, he was just a normal shop owner reading the news. But Hyun-woo's eyes were not normal. They were too calm, too knowing. He read Kira's warning and simply nodded. Then he picked up his phone and dialed a number that would show up on no phone company's records anywhere in the world. "This is Hyun-woo," he said quietly. "The vote went as expected. Initiate Protocol 7. Tell all stations that the long wait is finally over." He ended the call and went back to cleaning his coffee machine. Outside his window, Seoul continued its normal daily rhythm. People walked to work. Children played in parks and traffic moved through the streets. No one knew that in less than 48 hours, the largest invasion fleet in galactic history would arrive to conquer their world. But Hyun-woo was not worried. He had been waiting for this day for a very long time. As he worked, he smiled softly to himself. The aliens thought they were coming to conquer a primitive world. They had no idea what was actually waiting for them. In space, Admiral Theklan's fleet continued to grow as more ships arrived from across the galaxy. The Admiral studied intelligence reports about Earth's defenses. According to the data, humans had crude nuclear weapons and simple spacecraft. Their military technology was centuries behind galactic standards. It would be, the Admiral thought, the easiest conquest in military history. He was very, very wrong. Admiral Theklan stood on the bridge of his flagship as the massive invasion fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 800 warships from dozens of species spread out in perfect formation. The Admiral's rocky face showed satisfaction as his sensors began scanning the human homeworld. Then his expression changed to confusion. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are detecting no response from Earth. No military signals, no defensive positions activating, no emergency broadcasts." Theklan studied the tactical display with growing puzzlement. Earth's major cities showed no lights. No satellites moved in orbit around the planet. The radio frequencies that had buzzed with human chatter for decades were completely silent. "Have they fled?" asked Captain Zektar from the ethereal ship beside them. "Perhaps they are hiding underground," suggested Commander Vorth of the Machine Collective. Many primitive species retreat to caves when faced with superior force. But something felt wrong to Theklan. His species had fought in hundreds of wars across thousands of years. He had learned to trust his instincts, and his instincts were screaming that this was not what it appeared to be. Far below the ocean surface, Dayun guided her research submarine through the crushing darkness of Earth's deepest trenches. She was supposed to be a marine biologist studying deep-sea creatures. Her official records showed years of ordinary scientific work. As the alien fleet settled into orbit above, Dayun's instruments detected the massive gravitational disturbances. She surfaced her submarine just long enough to see the sky filled with alien ships, then activated a beacon that sent signals using principles of physics that the invaders had never discovered. "This is Deep Station 7, she reported to someone who was not listed in any government directory. "Surface confirmation complete. Fleet size matches predictions. Recommend immediate activation of all depth protocols." She dove back down, her submarine descending past the point where alien sensors could detect her. 7 miles below the surface, she documented something that should have been impossible. The ocean floor here was not empty rock and mud. Instead, vast structures stretched into the darkness, their surfaces glowing with soft light. It was a city, A city that existed at pressures that would crush any known technology, built with methods that made the alien fleet above look primitive. In the Canadian Rockies, Minho appeared to be leading a group of tourists away from a small mountain town. He wore the uniform of a park ranger and spoke with the concerned voice of someone trying to keep civilians safe. "Please stay together," he called out to the group of worried-looking people. "The government has ordered an evacuation of all populated areas. We need to reach the shelters before nightfall." The alien scouts watching from orbit saw exactly what they expected to see: panicked humans fleeing to hide in caves and bunkers. Their thermal sensors tracked the group moving toward what appeared to be natural cave systems in the mountainside. But the tourists Minho was leading were not tourists, and Minho was not a park ranger. As the group reached the cave entrance, the illusion dissolved. The frightened civilians flickered and vanished like broken holograms. The rustic mountain town behind them transformed as camouflaged panels slid away to reveal weapons platforms that contained technology. The aliens had never imagined Minho, touched a device on his wrist and spoke in a voice that carried no trace of fear. "Mountain Grid 7 operational. All ghost towns showing normal evacuation patterns. Enemy scouts are taking the bait exactly as predicted." The cave entrance dilated open to reveal an elevator that descended deep into the mountain. As Minho stepped inside, the walls around him lit up with displays showing defensive positions across the entire mountain range. Each innocent-looking peak contained enough firepower to level cities. Back in Seoul, Hyunwoo stood in his coffee shop and watched alien dropships descend through the atmosphere. The ships were graceful and deadly, designed to carry invasion forces to planetary surfaces. They moved in perfect formation toward what the aliens believed were major population centers. The coffee shop around Hyunwoo looked exactly as it always had. Warm lighting, comfortable chairs, the smell of fresh coffee beans. But as he watched the ships approach, he spoke quietly into a communication device. Phase 1 complete. All surface illusions holding. Enemy forces are committing to ground deployment. Recommend proceeding to Phase 2. As he spoke, the walls of the coffee shop began to slide away. What had appeared to be a simple building revealed itself as the entrance to something much larger. The floor beneath his feet was transparent, showing levels upon levels of sophisticated equipment extending deep underground. Hyunwoo was not a coffee shop owner. He was the operational commander of Earth's primary defense grid, and the coffee shop was just the visible tip of a command center that spanned continents. The alien ground forces landed in cities that appeared to be hastily abandoned. They found personal belongings scattered in apartments, vehicles left running in the streets, meals still warm on tables. Everything suggested that humans had fled in panic just minutes before their arrival. The invaders spread out through empty streets, their advanced sensors detecting no signs of resistance. Their commanders reported back to the fleet that the conquest was proceeding even more easily than predicted. But something was wrong with their equipment. Soldiers began reporting that their communications were suffering from strange interference. Their weapons showed power fluctuations that made no sense. Most disturbing of all, their life sign detectors kept showing impossible readings. Signatures that suggested humans were present, but moving in ways that violated the laws of physics. A Saurian patrol unit entered what appeared to be an abandoned shopping mall in Tokyo. Their squad leader activated his scanner and immediately stepped backward in shock. According to his instruments, the mall was full of humans, thousands of them, all around the patrol unit, but the squad leader could see that the mall was completely empty. "Command, this is Patrol 7, he reported nervously. "We are detecting massive human presence, but visual confirmation shows no targets. Request immediate technical support." Command's response was equally confused. "Patrol 7, your location shows clear on our orbital sensors. No life signs detected. Check your equipment for malfunction." But the squad leader's equipment was working perfectly. The humans were there. His instruments could detect their heat signatures, their electromagnetic fields, even their individual heartbeats. But somehow, they were invisible. As night fell across Earth, Admiral Teclon reviewed the day's reports with growing unease. His ground forces had occupied every major human city without encountering any resistance. According to all logic, the conquest should be complete, yet something felt terribly wrong. His soldiers were reporting equipment failures across multiple species and technology types. Communications were becoming unreliable, and strangest of all, Several patrol units had simply vanished without any distress signals. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "we are detecting gravitational anomalies around several major population centers. The readings don't match any known technology." Theclon studied the data with growing alarm. The gravitational fields around human cities were fluctuating in ways that suggested the presence of technology that operated outside known physics. Could the humans have developed some kind of advanced defensive system? He asked. "Impossible, sir. Our intelligence reports show they barely understand faster than light travel. They have no technology that could generate fields like this." But as Theclon watched his tactical displays, he began to realize that everything they thought they knew about humanity might be wrong. The humans had not fled. They had not surrendered. They had simply vanished, leaving behind a world that looked empty but felt very, very dangerous. In his coffee shop command center, Hyunwoo watched displays showing the positions of every alien soldier on Earth. None of the invaders realized that they were being tracked by sensors they could not detect, surrounded by defenses they could not see, and observed by humans they could not find. "All stations report ready," came voices from around the world. "Awaiting authorization for Phase 2. Hyunwoo smiled as he looked at the alien fleet filling the sky above Seoul. The invaders thought they had conquered Earth in a single day. Soon they would learn how wrong they were. The first alien patrol to disappear was a Corvani unit, searching an abandoned school in Berlin. One moment they were reporting all clear over their communications system. The next moment, silence. When their command tried to contact them, it was as if the 5-soldier squad had never existed. Admiral Theclon received the report with growing concern. "What do you mean they disappeared?" "Sir, we lost all contact at exactly 14:30 local time. Their life signs vanished from our sensors simultaneously. No distress calls, no weapons fire detected, no evidence of struggle." By the end of the second day, 17 patrols had vanished. Each disappearance followed the same pattern: normal operations, then sudden silence. The alien commanders began pulling their forces back to defensive positions, but even that did not help. A full battalion of ethereal soldiers, over 300 beings, vanished from their fortified position in what used to be London. They had been there 1 hour, gone the next. Their equipment remained, but the soldiers themselves had simply ceased to exist. Captain Zektar of the ethereal fleet demanded answers from his science officers. "How is this possible? Our sensors show no human technology capable of this." "Sir," his chief scientist replied nervously, "we are detecting energy patterns that do not match any known physics. The signatures suggest the humans are using technology that operates in dimensions we cannot perceive." That was when Sujin made her first appearance. The captured Saurian commander had been taken while investigating a university campus in Seoul. He found himself in what appeared to be a simple research laboratory, but the equipment around him made no sense. Machines hummed with energies he could not identify, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with invisible forces. A young Korean woman entered the room, wearing a simple lab coat and carrying a cup of coffee. She looked completely ordinary, like any graduate student working late in a university lab. "Good morning, Commander Velkos," she said in perfect Saurian. "I am Sujin. I study theoretical physics. I hope you are comfortable." The commander struggled against his restraints. "Release me immediately. I'm a prisoner of war under galactic law." Sujin sat down across from him and smiled. "Actually, you are not a prisoner. You are a guest. And this is not a war. This is a lesson." She gestured to the equipment around them. "For the past 200 years, my people have been preparing for this day. While your species explored space, we explored something far more interesting. We learned to move between dimensions." The commander stared at her in disbelief. "Impossible. Dimensional travel is theoretical at best. No species has ever achieved it." "No species has ever achieved it in your dimension," Sujin corrected gently. "But we do not exist only in your dimension. We exist in all of them." She activated a holographic display that showed Earth from space. But this was not the Earth the invasion fleet saw. This Earth was surrounded by structures that existed in folded space, connected to networks that stretched across realities the aliens had never imagined. "Your fleet thinks it is fighting the humans of one world," Sujin continued. "But you are actually fighting the combined forces of every Earth that exists across the dimensional spectrum. Every choice that was ever made, Every possibility that ever existed. Every version of humanity that could ever be. The commander's face turned pale. You are lying. Such power would be impossible to hide. We did not hide it, Sujin replied. We simply let you see what you expected to see. Your species looks for technology that follows the rules of physics you understand, but we developed technology that follows different rules entirely. Meanwhile, in what appeared to be a farm outside Dublin, Taemin was explaining similar truths to another captured alien officer. The ethereal captain had been taken while investigating reports of human activity in the countryside. You study war, Taemin said, as he tended to plants that seemed to glow with their own inner light. But we study life. For 50 years, we have been analyzing genetic samples from every species in the Galactic Council. We know your biology better than you do. The captain watched in horror as Taemin's crops began to move and change shape. Plants became machines, machines became creatures, and creatures became energies that defied classification. Every weapon your people carry, every advantage you think you possess, we have studied and countered, Taemin continued calmly. The Corvani believe their armor makes them invincible, but we developed bacteria that can dissolve their specific metal compounds. The ethereals think their energy forms make them untouchable, but we learned to manipulate the frequencies that hold your bodies together. The captain tried to use his natural ethereal ability to phase through solid matter, but found himself unable to move. What have you done to me? Nothing harmful, Taemin assured him. We have simply adjusted the local physics to prevent your escape. The area around you now follows rules that your species never discovered. In this space, energy beings like yourself are as solid as rocks. Back on Admiral Theklan's flagship, panic was spreading through the command crew. More than half of the ground forces had vanished without a trace. The remaining units reported that their weapons were malfunctioning in ways that seemed impossible. Sir, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. It is coming from the planet's surface, but using technology we do not recognize. Put it through, Theklan ordered. The main display activated to show a man standing in what appeared to be an ordinary coffee shop. But behind him, visible through the windows, were structures that hurt to look at directly. Buildings that folded in on themselves, roads that led in directions that should not exist, and skies that showed stars from multiple realities. Greetings, Admiral Theklan, Hyunwoo said politely. I am Hyunwoo and I speak for the people of Earth. I believe you have some questions. Where are my soldiers? Theklan demanded. They are safe, Hyunwoo replied. They are being relocated to a place where they can do no harm and receive no harm. Think of it as a protective measure for all involved. This is impossible. No species has technology capable of what you describe. Hyunwoo smiled. Admiral, your people have spent millions of years learning to travel between stars. But you never learned to travel between realities. You see one universe and think it is everything, but it is just one layer of an infinite cake. The display behind Hyunwoo changed to show the truth. The Earth the invasion fleet thought they were attacking was just one of billions. In dimensions parallel to their own, other Earths existed where history had unfolded differently. On some of these worlds, humans had developed technology, millions of years ahead of galactic civilization. On others, they had learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. The humans you thought you were conquering, Hyunwoo continued, are connected to all of these realities. We share knowledge across dimensions. We combine the wisdom of billions of different paths of human development. Your 800 species are impressive, Admiral, but you are fighting billions of human civilizations. Theklan's tactical officers were studying their sensors with growing alarm. Sir, we are detecting massive energy buildups around the planet. The readings suggest the presence of fleets larger than anything in recorded history. Not fleets, Admiral, Hyunwoo said, having somehow heard their private conversation. Just Earth, but Earth as it exists across every possible reality where humans survived and thrived. The space around Earth began to shimmer and change. Ships appeared from nowhere, but they were not ships as the aliens understood them. These vessels seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their forms shifting and flowing like liquid metal given the power of flight. We did not want this conflict, Hyunwoo said sadly. For centuries, we have worked quietly to prevent wars and protect civilizations across the galaxy. We have saved your people from threats they never knew existed. But your council chose to see us as enemies instead of allies. Admiral Theclon stared at the impossible sight of humanity's true fleet. Each ship seemed to contain the combined power of entire star systems. The invasion force that had seemed so massive now looked like toys in comparison. "What do you want from us?" he asked quietly. "Nothing but peace," Hyunwoo replied. "Your soldiers will be returned to you unharmed. Your fleets will be allowed to leave safely. But the galaxy must learn that some things are not meant to be conquered." As the Admiral watched, his missing battalions began reappearing on their transport ships. The soldiers looked confused but uninjured, with no memory of how they had been captured or where they had been held. "This is not possible," Teclon whispered. "Admiral," Hyunwoo said gently, "you are learning that many things you thought were impossible are simply things you had not yet understood. We hope this lesson will help your people choose wisdom over aggression in the future." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Teclon staring at displays that showed readings his science could not explain. Around Earth, the dimensional fleet waited patiently for his decision. For the first time in his long military career, the Admiral realized he was completely outmatched. The question now was whether the Galactic Council would be wise enough to accept the lesson, or foolish enough to try again. The emergency council session aboard Nexus Prime was unlike anything in galactic history. Representatives from 800 species filled the Great Chamber. But instead of the confident voices that had voted for invasion, there was only fearful whispering. Admiral Theclon stood before them, his massive rock-like form somehow looking smaller than before. "Honored council members," he began, his voice heavy with defeat. "The invasion of Earth has failed. Not failed, it was never truly begun. We were fighting an enemy that does not exist in the way we understand existence." Councillor Velthar rose from his seat, his reptilian features twisted with disbelief. "Explain yourself, Admiral. How can a primitive species defeat the combined might of 800 worlds?" "They are not primitive," Teclon replied quietly. "They never were. Everything we believed about humanity was an illusion they allowed us to see." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives demanded explanations, proof, some understanding of how their greatest military force in history could be defeated without firing a shot. That was when Kira stepped forward. The young woman who had seemed so helpless during the vote now walked to the center of the chamber with calm confidence. But as she moved, something strange happened. The air around her began to shimmer, and for brief moments, the council members could see other figures walking beside her, dozens of other versions of Kira from different realities. "Honored Council," she said, and her voice carried harmonics that suggested multiple people speaking in perfect unison. "I believe it is time for truth." Velthar pointed an accusing claw at her. You knew. You knew what your species was capable of, and you said nothing." "I said exactly what I was supposed to say," Kira replied calmly. "I played the role of the helpless diplomat because that is what you needed to see. But I was never helpless, and humanity was never primitive. The main display activated to show Earth, but not the Earth they thought they knew. This Earth was connected by streams of energy to billions of other Earths, each slightly different, forming a network that spanned dimensions. For over 300 years, Kira continued, humanity has known about the Galactic Council. We have observed every meeting, studied every species, and quietly worked to prevent the wars and catastrophes that would have destroyed countless civilizations. Youngsu appeared beside Kira as a hologram, but his image seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Behind him, the council could see glimpses of beings that were not quite human but clearly related to humanity, evolved versions from realities where different choices had been made. "I am Youngsu, and I serve as humanity's primary contact with what we call the Outer Council," he said. "These are civilizations from dimensions where physics works differently, where evolution took different paths, where humanity developed in ways your reality never imagined." The crystalline beings of the Nexus worlds chimed in alarm. "You speak of dimensions as if they are real places. Such things are theoretical at best." "Theoretical in your dimension," Youngsu replied. "But we learned long ago that what you call theoretical physics is simply the operating manual for realities you have not yet discovered." Keeper Mordun, the ancient archive being, finally spoke. His metallic tree-like form shimmered as old memories surfaced. "I have known," he said quietly. "For 3,000 years I have known. The archive species has records of humanity's true nature dating back to when they first appeared in our dimension. The chamber fell silent. Morden was the oldest being in the council, keeper of knowledge that spanned millions of years. The humans did not evolve on Earth as we believed, Morden continued. They chose Earth as a focal point, because it was the one reality where their species developed in isolation. This made them perfect candidates to serve as guardians against threats that the Council, in its arrogance, never imagined. Zindar of the Ethereal Collective floated upward in rage. Guardians? We need no guardians. We have ruled this galaxy for millennia. You have ruled what you could see, Kira said gently. But there are threats in the spaces between dimensions that would have destroyed your civilizations long ago. Humanity has been quietly protecting the galaxy from dangers you never knew existed. The display changed to show events from galactic history, but now shown from humanity's perspective. Wars that had ended mysteriously when one side suddenly decided to seek peace, plagues that had vanished overnight, natural disasters that had somehow been diverted at the last moment. The Corvani Ethereal War of 2,000 years ago, Young-Su said. It ended when both sides received visions of peace. Those visions came from human dimensional engineers working to prevent a conflict that would have destroyed 40 star systems. The Great Plague that threatened to wipe out the Nexus Collective 800 years ago, Kira added. It disappeared when humanity's biological specialists created targeted cures and distributed them through dimensional portals that your species never detected. Velthar's voice shook with anger and fear. You manipulated us! You controlled our history without our knowledge or consent. We guided when guidance was needed, Kira replied. We protected when protection was necessary. We intervened only when intervention would prevent greater suffering. And we did it all while allowing your species to believe you were in control of your own destiny. More council members began fleeing the chamber as the implications became clear. If humanity had been secretly managing galactic affairs for centuries, what else might they have hidden? What other assumptions about reality might be wrong? Commander Vorth of the Machine Collective processed the data with mechanical precision. Query: if human capabilities are as described, why reveal the truth now? Why not continue the deception indefinitely? Because, Young-Su said sadly, this invasion crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. You chose to see us as enemies instead of allies. You forced us to reveal our true nature to protect ourselves and protect you from the consequences of your own actions. The display showed Admiral Theklan's fleet, still orbiting Earth but now clearly outmatched by the dimensional ships surrounding the planet. But the human vessels were not attacking. They simply waited, patient and watchful. What happens now? Asked a representative from the trader guilds. That depends on your choice, Kira replied. You can accept that the galaxy is larger and more complex than you imagined, and work with us to build something better. Or you can continue to believe that power comes from conquest and dominance. Zindar made a final desperate argument. Even if what you say is true, you cannot rule us. We are free beings. We have the right to govern ourselves. We have no desire to rule you, Young-Su said quietly. We never did. But we also cannot allow you to destroy yourselves or others through ignorance and aggression. The council chamber was rapidly emptying as representatives fled to their ships. Some were panicking, others were angry, and a few were trying to process the staggering implications of what they had learned. Keeper Morden remained in his seat, ancient and wise. What of those who cannot accept this new reality? He asked. The same thing that happened to Admiral Theklan's soldiers, Kira replied. They will be relocated to dimensions where they can pursue their desires for conquest without harming others. There are realities where endless war is possible without causing real suffering. They will be happier there. As if to demonstrate the point, several of the most aggressive council members simply vanished from their seats. They did not cry out or resist. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, transported to dimensions where their warrior nature could be satisfied without endangering peaceful civilizations. And for those who choose to accept the new reality? Morden asked. Young-Su smiled. They will discover that the universe is far more wonderful than they ever imagined. There are entire civilizations in adjacent dimensions that have been waiting to share knowledge and friendship. There are technologies that operate on principles of cooperation rather than domination. There are possibilities for growth and exploration that make our current galaxy look like a small pond compared to an infinite ocean. As the session ended, only a few dozen representatives remained in the Great Chamber. These were the beings who could accept change, who could embrace the idea that their understanding of reality had been incomplete. "The Galactic Council as you knew it is over," Kira announced. "But something new is beginning. We call it the Dimensional Accord. It is not a government or a ruling body. It is a cooperative network of species working together to explore the infinite possibilities that exist across all realities." For the first time in galactic history, the council chamber was quiet not with fear but with wonder. The beings who remained were beginning to understand that they had not lost their independence. They had gained access to an infinite number of new kinds of freedom. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation was about to begin. 6 months after the failed invasion, the galaxy looked completely different. The old Nexus Prime station had been transformed into something that hurt to look at directly. A structure that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, connecting realities that most beings had never imagined. Hyunwoo walked through corridors that defied conventional geometry, past windows that showed views of hundreds of different worlds existing in the same space. He was no longer pretending to be a simple coffee shop owner. Now he wore the simple robes of a dimensional accord mediator, helping species adjust to their new understanding of reality. Former Councillor Velthar waited for him in what used to be the main council chamber. The proud Saurian leader looked smaller now, humbled by the knowledge of how much he had not understood about the universe. "You wanted to speak with me," Hyunwoo said, settling into a chair that adjusted itself to accommodate beings from any dimension. "I need to understand," Velthar said quietly. "Why did your people never reveal themselves before? Why let us believe we were in charge when you could have ruled us openly?" Hyunwoo smiled gently. "Because ruling others is not strength, Velthar. It is weakness. True strength comes from helping others become strong enough that they no longer need rulers." He gestured to the transformed station around them. For centuries, humanity has been learning a fundamental truth. The best way to protect the galaxy was to let other species believe they were in charge while we worked quietly to prevent disasters. But surely there were times when direct action would have been more efficient? Velthar asked. "Efficient, yes, but not wise. When you force change on others, they resist. When you guide them to discover change for themselves, they embrace it." Hyunwoo paused, watching alien children from a dozen species playing together in a nearby corridor. "Your people are stronger now than they ever were under the old council system. You learned to question your assumptions, to seek wisdom instead of just power. That lesson was worth more than any conquest." In the deep ocean trenches of Earth, Daun guided a delegation of water-breathing species through the impossible cities that existed beneath the waves. Her guests included representatives from the Abyssal Collective, beings from dimensions where oceans covered entire galaxies. "These structures have existed for how long?" asked Ambassador Fluxdrain, a creature that looked like living water given form and consciousness. "In your timeline, about 200 years, Daun replied as they swam past buildings that seemed to grow from the ocean floor like coral, but pulsed with technologies that operated on principles of controlled evolution. "But they exist simultaneously across thousands of realities. What you see here is the combined engineering, knowledge of every version of humanity that chose to develop underwater civilizations." She led them to an observation deck where they could see the full scope of the deep cities. Vast networks of interconnected structures stretched across the ocean floor, connected by streams of energy that followed the planet's magnetic fields. "We call this the Aquatic Accord," Dayun continued. "It's a dimensional network that connects every water world in existence. Species that develop in ocean environments can share knowledge and resources across realities instantly." Ambassador Fluxdrain rippled with amazement. "My people have struggled with deep-sea pressure engineering for millennia. You are saying we could have access to solutions developed by civilizations that evolved under different physical laws?" "Not just access," Dayon smiled. "Partnership. The network works because everyone contributes their unique knowledge. Your people's understanding of pressure dynamics could help civilizations in dimensions where gravity works differently." Meanwhile, in the mountains of Earth, Minho was showing a very different kind of transformation. The mountain ranges that had once hidden defensive weapons now revealed themselves as vast dimensional gateways. "Each peak is a doorway," he explained to a group of explorer species from across the galaxy. "They lead to versions of Earth where different geological events shaped the landscape. Some connect to Earths where the mountains grew into space. Others lead to realities where the peaks became homes to civilizations that exist in crystalline networks. Captain Norak of the Stonewalker species touched one of the mountain faces with wonder. My people have always believed that mountains are the bones of the universe. You are telling us this is literally true? In some dimensions, yes, Minho replied. There are realities where mountains are living beings, others where they exist as pure geometric forms that sing mathematical equations. The mountain network connects all of them. He led the group to a viewing platform that showed the impossible sight of the same mountain existing in dozens of different states simultaneously. In one view, it was covered with snow. In another, it was made of crystal. In a third, it floated freely in space as part of a vast orbital ring. The beauty of dimensional networking, Minho continued, is that every version of reality has something to teach the others. Your people's knowledge of stoneworking could be combined with crystal-growing techniques from the silicon dimensions, or weightless construction methods from the zero-gravity Earths. Back on the transformed Nexus Prime, Sujin was demonstrating humanity's greatest revelation to a gathering of the galaxy's most brilliant scientists. The laboratory she had built existed in folded space, allowing beings from different dimensions to work together despite operating under different physical laws. The key insight, she explained to the mixed group of flesh, energy, and machine intelligences, was realizing that what we call the laws of physics are actually just local regulations. Different dimensions operate under different rules, but the underlying mathematics that connects them all remains constant. Dr. Zeflin of the Ethereal Research Collective flickered with excitement. You are suggesting that we could develop technologies that work by switching between different dimensional physics? Not just suggesting. Sujin smiled, activating a device that seemed to exist as pure energy one moment and solid matter the next. We have been doing it for decades. This tool operates as energy when we need it to pass through solid barriers, and as matter when we need it to manipulate physical objects. She showed them plans for technologies that seemed impossible. Engines that generated power by borrowing energy from dimensions where thermodynamics worked differently. Communication systems that operated by sending messages through realities where time moved at different speeds. And transportation methods that worked by temporarily relocating destinations rather than moving travelers. The applications are unlimited, Sujin continued. Medical techniques that borrow healing properties from dimensions where biology follows different rules. Agricultural methods that grow crops in soil borrowed from realities with more fertile physics. Construction techniques that build with materials that are stronger in alternate dimensions. In the rural areas of Earth, Taemin was revealing the true scope of what humanity called the botanical network. What had appeared to be simple farming was actually the physical manifestation of a galaxy-spanning communication system. Every plant, he explained to a delegation of agricultural species, is quantum entangled with corresponding plants across thousands of dimensions. They share information instantly, regardless of distance or physical barriers. The delegation watched in amazement as Taemin approached what looked like an ordinary tomato plant and spoke to it quietly. Moments later, similar plants on worlds thousands of light years away began glowing with soft bioluminescence. You are using plants as living communication networks? Asked agriculturalist Prime Kethvara of the Harvest Worlds. Communication, computation, and coordination, Taemin replied. The network allows us to share agricultural knowledge across realities, coordinate responses to galactic events, and even transfer biological materials instantaneously. If a world is facing crop failure, we can send seeds that have been adapted in dimensions where similar challenges were overcome. He showed them fields where crops from dozens of different realities grew side by side, each adapted to local conditions but connected to the vast network of knowledge that spanned dimensions. Finally, Young-Su addressed the transformed galaxy from the heart of the new dimensional accord. Around him, representatives from hundreds of species and thousands of realities worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. The vote to invade Earth, he said, his words being transmitted simultaneously across multiple dimensions, was the last act of the old galaxy. A galaxy based on the idea that strength comes from conquest, that knowledge belongs to those who seize it, that cooperation is weakness. The display behind him showed the new reality, networks of cooperation spanning infinite realities, technologies developed through shared wisdom rather than competitive research. and conflicts resolved through dimensional relocation rather than destruction. What we have built together is not a government or an empire, Young-Soo continued. It is something that has never existed before. A truly cooperative civilization that spans all possible realities. Every species contributes their unique perspective. Every dimension offers its own solutions to universal problems. He paused to look around at the beings working together. Energy creatures collaborating with mechanical,